Oh my, oh my, oh my, oh my. Well, hey there, folks. I don't know about you, but certain words give me the willies. I suppose we would describe such words nowadays as triggers. And I tell you, folks and family, I've got plenty of them. Sometimes you'll hear folks use words like grace, faith, and redemption, and they'll use them out in the real world, like in an everyday secular sort of context. And I kid you not, even there, those words send shivers down my spine every single time. Words like ransom, geez, even in a kidnapping movie, the word ransom stops me cold in my tracks. I guess you'd say that it gives me the major ick. And honestly, we're barely even getting started on these words. We haven't even uttered the word spiritual yet. I guess we should really just take a great big trigger warning and just plaster it over this entire session, not just for you, but for myself as well, because this is our featured conversation tonight. The spiritual sounding words that we oftentimes carry over from our theistic experience, while some of those may be helpful, they may also be triggering as, hold on, are we far enough into the episode where I could, no, triggering as gosh darn heck. So yeah, we're asking tonight, do atheists and agnostics have spirits? Or do they benefit from spirituality? Any of that? Does the terminology even make sense anymore this side of faith? What are the words that trigger you? And what are the spiritual sounding words that maybe alternatively, not just the words that trigger you, but what are the spiritual sounding words that you might still find helpful to some degree? What do we retain? What do we reframe? And what are the words that we just absolutely abandon altogether? For all this and more, folks, we're here. Let's talk, let's discuss, let's navigate these roads together. So call in and share with us. Share your journey, share your challenges about this or about pretty much anything else that you're wrestling your way through tonight. Keep in mind that your boots on the ground challenges happening right now, live in action after leaving the faith. These will always be prioritized so that we, so that you, so that I, so that our amazing co-host back once more, so that we might partner up and find our way together. The number is on the screen, folks, 98 4400 5656, because the Life After Faith live call-in show, yeah, that starts in 3, 2, 1, now. And joining me once again tonight, folks, I just love her official bio so damn much that even though I read it just a few weeks ago when she was on for the first time, I'm gonna read it again. That's how much I love this. I'm gonna read it again, word for word. Once named an abomination by the faith that raised her, she learned that no God grants or denies human worth. Leaving those imposed symbols among the leaves, she chose life, reclaiming her humanity and allowing what was buried to bloom. Today, she speaks to build connection, dignity, and a more honest, more humane world. Folks, friends, family, everyone in the chat, start snapping or clapping or something. Please join me in re-welcoming back in the seat once again, Justice Renée. Hey, my friend. Welcome back. How are you doing on this fine evening?
I am so glad to be back on and getting the chance to hang out with you and connect with our viewers as well as those who are going to call in. Thinking about the topic tonight, there's a lot to this. And I think you could hear even in the bio how certain language can be both toxic and empowering, depending on how you embrace it and then how you connect with others in the process. What does it do when you're having a dialogue? Do you use that same spiritual language when you're working on your own issues, or do you reclaim that in that process, or in the process of how you're interacting and engaging with those out there? And those who may have come from deeply fundamentalist backgrounds are going to have different understandings in those words than those who may have been humanist their entire life. And I think you know, as we've had some of those conversations with different ones who look like words spiritual, and soul, and how that fits within the equation.
Absolutely, because it really is. These are conversations, and these are words regarding conversations, or that whole conversations are revolving around. And like with so much in navigating all these things, there's rarely a one right answer. In other words, a lot of this stuff, reflects our preferences, right? And some folks who come from situations where certain words are crammed down throats in very particular and forceful ways, of course, those words can become more triggering, etc. Right? And those of us who maybe grow up in church world, but it's a lot more of an easy peasy progressive. Are they even believing theists in for some of us who we might grow up Christian going to church, but were we ever really? Did it even matter? And for some whole Christian churches, it was almost more of a atheistic, non-theistic Christian church. And some ministers have specifically targeted it that way. So obviously we're all coming at this from different directions. And so we're all going to be following it in different directions as well. Hey, but Justice, before we dig into all that, okay, you are back. And tonight I just want to point this out and thank you once again for coming in what's the phrase? Coming in through the lurch, or coming in the lurch, or something like that. Tonight was originally actually scheduled to be your first session, and you jumped in to fill a spot spontaneously just a few weeks back. And I just want to thank you for still being chill enough to come back again tonight, because you could have easily said, Drew, I did my time. I'm not coming back, at least not anytime soon, but you were generous enough to come back and visit us once more. So thank you, my friend.
Well, without question, this is what I love about this concept of the show. I mean, I'll be very clear. You and I've had these conversations. A lot of the YouTube content out there for humanists and atheists is all about the deconversion story. What was it like when you left that faith? How did you leave that faith? And we spend all of our time obsessing about how damaging that was and what it took to actually leave that. And, depending on the story, it's a level of transformation. We're trying to still focus on that transformation. But in our day-to-day lives, what actually matters is what happens to us 5, 10 years after that date that we left the faith. What happens in our day-to-day jobs when we think about how we approach our coworkers who are very spiritual and carry their spirituality right on their shoulders, their religion on their shoulders. How do we deal with it when we're talking about a culture which is embraced and buried in what they call Christian nationalism, right? There's these concepts of how do we move forward. And that's what I love about the concept of life after faith, because we're not talking about the past. We're talking about the present. We're talking about what's happening to each and every one of us. And we're talking about the people that it's affecting today, which is why I'm so excited to talk to the people who are going to call in tonight, because that's what it matters. It matters about what's happening in their lives today and how we can work forward as humans, embracing the diversity of this beautiful life that we have.
Absolutely. Snaps and claps and all that good stuff. One random question, okay? We're going to be maybe talking about some heavy stuff tonight. And so just a quick little fun something. We're talking about spirituality and the use of certain kinds of spirit and soul sounding words and all of that. So I'm curious. This is actually a very serious question. This is very, very, very serious question, Justice. What do you think of spirit animals? And do you have one?
Well, I've always wanted to have like the fox be my spirit animal, but I happen to know I'm just a big puppy. It's a problem. Born in the year of the dog. It's a whole thing. My whole life is being a puppy. I know it. I can't help it. So my spirituality just definitely hits right into the whole concept of a puppy. It's kind of fun.
Well, I've been to your house. Obviously several times. Has it been 100 times yet or 200? So love your dogs dearly. I got to say though, I got to point out the one that was the formerliest puppy, the one closest to puppyhood. She tends to be the most aggressive one. So are you an aggressive puppy, or are you a nice, cute little princess puppy?
Oh no, I would never say that I'm a cute monster. No, I love to connect with people, which means I'm going to come right over there and give you a gigantic big hug, and I'm going to probably be all over you.
Absolutely. Excellent. Excellent.
That probably came out a little bit wrong. But again, I mean, come on.
I think we know what you're saying. We'll interpret it
Stacey,
as generously as possible. A fun little puppy, a cute little, yeah. Well,
how about you, Drew?
A generous puppy. So for me, okay, now don't laugh, okay? Don't mock me with it, please. But I guess if I had to pick a spirit animal, it would be a lion. Not because I'm the king of anything, but I've always loved. It's actually why my very first tattoo was like a lion stencil, but it was a calm lion stencil. I've always loved the duality. I think in what I see in lions, how there's just this nobility. They're just like above the fray. They're undeterred by anything, just above all the bullshit, right? Calm, collect. But if you get in their face, they will tear your fucking face off of you if you get in their face. And so I don't know if that speaks a little bit to the unredeemed. I'm just going to keep throwing in potential trigger words. I apologize. Again, this is your trigger warning. Maybe that speaks to an unredeemed aggression against those who have harmed me and my loved ones in the past. But there is this curdling underneath the surface, maybe. But also, let's have fun and play games. So there's that. All right. All right. So, folks, we are taking calls tonight, of course. We're talking tonight, again, about religious carryover words from our church world experience, faith, belief in God stuff, all those things. Maybe we now, this side of faith, find some of these words triggering. Or maybe we've reclaimed them or even reframed them. Words like spiritual, words like soul, maybe even words like grace or hope or whatnot. Words that some folks might use in a totally secular context, but that's not how you and I maybe were introduced to them. And therefore we still carry all of those potential discomforts around them. Or maybe not. Folks, in the chat, I would invite you all to start sharing if you haven't yet. I don't always do a good job keeping up in the chat. Thankfully, there's others around me who are amazing in it. But I would invite you to share in the chat what are your thoughts on some of these trigger words? What are your biggest trigger words if you want to share them? Or feel free to disagree and say, you know what? Everybody shits on souls, but I kind of like the word. It's got a vibe. Feel free to say that as well. Even more than that, feel free to call in. Just a quick reminder, folks, that this show, Life After Faith, offers personal perspectives and coaching style conversations and is not, however, a substitute for licensed professional therapy. For that, I would point you to where I found my therapist, whom, by the way, his niche, if you want to say, is helping specifically not former deconverted, former theists, helping them talk through, think through, and navigate existentialism and existential dread after leaving the faith. And I found my therapist through this amazing group called the Secular Therapy Project. And so I would direct folks, just as we do every week, to seculartherapy.org, where they can put you in contact with a fantastic therapist. Also, too, for additional resources, every week we want to point you towards the good folks in the amazing resource library at Recovering from Religion, which is at recoveringfromreligion.org. Okay, so want to make sure, just point out those things there. We're here for some great conversation, hopefully some substantive conversation. I do believe there is benefit we can gain from each other, and yet none of this takes place of the incredible value found in licensed professional therapy. So folks, the lines are open. We'd love to have you call in. Please remember that any and all boots on the ground challenges that you are facing right now in real time as you are navigating life after faith, those will always be prioritized in the call lineup. So we're going to go ahead where Justice and I are going to dive deeper into conversation. But remember, that number it's in the chat. It's on the screen, 98-4400-5656, or call in through the web. We look forward to chatting with whatever the hell you'd like to chat about tonight. Just some important clarifications there we needed to get through. That's
we had to get the clarifications out.
Yes,
and I think we need to hit it. We're about to talk about spirituality, spiritual words, reclaiming those words. So we have to hit. Should we? Should we even dare use spiritual language? What about the damage that it does?
Yeah. Because it really can. It can do some real damage, and a lot of this. From what I've seen in other folks, again, I'm a layman. I'm a 10-year educated minister. Okay, granted, it was a more progressive version of Christianity, that at least where I took it anyway. But nonetheless, again, I'm not a therapist. I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a psychologist. I'm not any of that. I did take 10 Bible steeped psychology courses. I don't know if those even count. Okay. I am not seculartherapy.org. That said, what I've seen both through my work at the Clergy Project, as well as elsewhere, is that your background, the theology that was hammered into you, sometimes self-inflicted into you, really does play, or at least can play, a big role in what you do with those words afterwards. And so, yeah, you're right, Justice. There can be a lot of damage from a lot of these words. And yet, sometimes some folks find it helpful to reclaim them or even reframe them. I know I've done that to some degree. Justice, anything you want to jump into in that direction? I'll go wherever you want to go, my friend.
Let's hit this correct on, right? I mean, we
please.
know, and if you've been paying attention to the atheist community, sometimes we can have a real strong debate about whether or not we should use those words. Drew, you and I, we attend a humanist congregation that I enjoy. And we sometimes hear very, very, very spiritual language coming from the lectern as they have their conversations and their discussions. And both you and I have had our conversations about it. Keep in mind, this is the same facility that when someone had an artwork that had a piece of a cross on it, someone went and then carved that cross out of that with a penknife. So we're not talking about a congregation. This is a primarily atheist, humanist congregation with values in the Unitarian area, but very much still in that perspective of kind of against religion in a lot of ways. But we do hear the language. And for some people, that is very, very, very powerful. I know for myself that when I left the faith, that language, I had to distance myself completely from it. And anytime I heard the words, "I'm praying for you," I heard very direct and very specific poison being issued my direction, even if the person who was saying it had no clue the power that they were giving it to the word. To me, it was very, very painful. Reverence and connection, and how do we embrace soul or spiritual? Those words were damaging to listen to and to hear.
Absolutely.
Because
absolutely.
I've been trying to find ways to bring myself into an understanding of what does it actually look like to move forward. And so that's, I think, the juxtaposition of here we are, we're sitting with language that when you use specific words, those words can be then co-opted by other groups, as well as the pain and the damage that can happen to those in our own group and the perspective of what we're dealing with. But I think the co-opting is an interesting area that I'd love to pursue a little bit further with you as we go into this. But what were you were going to say something, and I felt like I interrupted.
Absolutely. No, you're great. And I think along the way, so we're talking about language, we're talking about words that show up and whatnot. I do want to just real quick high out, because it is all part of this same conversation. Felicia by Nature, she has $10 super chat. Thank you so much, Felicia. And it reads, former Catholic, over 20 years deconstructed, I reclaimed reverence, not as worship, but as awe for the scale, complexity, and fragility of reality itself, deep time, evolution, a tired possum, etc. I love it. I love it. And thank you, Felicia, for the financial support, as with everything you do. So thank you for that. But I love that. I mean, this is a great example, right, Justice, of words that can be reclaimed. And I love how Felicia here puts reclaiming the word reverence, not as worship. And I want to put a pin in that, because Justice and I think we've seen, or at least I have, in our humanist community, which, though non-theistic, can really reclaim a lot of extra spiritual sounding words, such as even I've heard the word worship used in a by those leading on occasion in a non-ironic sense. So I don't know how you reframe that, if it's worshiping now the potential of our humanity or what, but yeah. So, but reclaiming reverence, but not worship, and a variety of different things there. No, I right there with you, Justice. And I think this is part of the big discussion, right? Is what is helpful and what is not. And I know for myself, there's been times where I've seen, be it in language or certainly in other things, as I navigate life after faith, where taking something that is maybe a triggering or a difficult subject. Okay, here's an example. Oh shit, do we all want a live in-person demonstration? I've got props and I wasn't even trying to take it. Okay, so Justice, is this cool? Because I think it all ties right into this.
Let's do it.
And it was a thought that just came to my head. So there was just months before I left my last congregation, my last church, we had took a big group photo. And so there was a picture, it was a group photo of some of the church at our annual picnic, and they all signed the idea, and this was not a lie, I was leaving the church to go back and return, and I already had received a full scholarship to go do a second master's, and then had some PhD offers for after that. And so I had this whole trajectory lined up on where I was going. None of it is what happened. I ended up not going back to school because I have bills to pay, y'all. So I abandoned my academic career. That said, they all signed goodbye notes. So it's just this beautiful framed photo with all these goodbye, we love you. We love you. Also, too, the marriage that I lost in the process, she's in it, everything, right? My first wife. And for years, I could not look at it without breaking out in tears for years. And I had largely moved on, but it's just something about looking at this. It just triggered me in another way, in a different way than what some of these words do. It triggered my emotions to tears. Yeah. And then one day, not ever follow your therapist's advice on this, but one day I said, you know what? I'm going to face it head on. I'm going to hang it on my wall, and I'm going to find a way to be comfortable with it. And eventually I did. And I reframed it in my mind, where I saw it as a picture of, well, I won't bore you with how I reframed it, but I found a way to become very comfortable with it. And now I keep it.
Let me see. I'm excited.
So there we go. Yeah. So that's it. I recently took it off. It used to hang up there, but then one of our amazing viewers, community members, gifted Stacy and myself a bunch of metalwork, beautiful metalwork. So this had to come down, but not until it took years to kind of get over it and move beyond it. So I don't know if that's helpful, Justice, but these are the kinds of reframes that can be helpful, right?
So we have, thinking about this, I mean, I want to set the foundation. Yeah. When we talk about spiritual language and spiritual words, one of the problems is when we do this in the larger culture and subtext. When we're doing this, when I was a Christian in ministry and doing things, I love to hear people talk about the word God, and I love to hear people talk about spiritual. Why? Because it gave authority and power to the voice. And I could always say things like, we have the populist, everyone wants to be a Christian. At the same time, I am saying that they're not Christians. Only I am the true Christian. But by using that language, and this is where we can sometimes have serious and detrimental harm, we normalize sets of words which specific groups utilize to hurt and harm others. When we say things like, well, we don't believe in a higher power, but we think that there's a soul and a spirit and these type of things of connections. And this is not to degrade or push away these concepts, because these are powerful words that have very strong bearing to us, but they also have very strong bearing in the cultures that we're a part of. And when we use those words, we can many times give power and authority to those same groups that then utilize that words with those who may not understand these same concepts that we're holding on to. It's really, it's one of those things when you're talking about spirituality, we can hit into the concept of church and trying to see how it's connected. And at the same time, it can make us very, very uncomfortable depending on how it is then propping up the cultures. I think we have a caller that might be asking about exactly that question.
Absolutely. So we are bringing on, we have Lena. Lena's pronouns are she, her, and she's calling in from Minnesota. And she does identify as an atheist and wants to talk with us about that very word, the word church, being used to refer to her humanist congregation. I am pushing the big green button. And Lena, you are on live with Justice and Drew. How are you, my friend?
Hi,
Lena. Hi, Drew. Hello, Justice.
Hello.
How are you tonight? I'm so glad you're calling in.
Yeah, I'm doing really well.
Yeah. That's awesome. And Lena, just so you know, we're not going to some folks want to be more identified more fully, others don't. I will leave that up to you if you want to identify yourself beyond what you shared here in the call screener. Otherwise, it's just great to have you call.
Yeah. So you were having some issues with the word church. Am I correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Talk to us about that, Lena. What, anything you want to share about how, have you heard that often? You're talking about your humanist community, your humanist congregation in Minnesota. Do you hear that word there a lot?
I'm talking about the same humanist congregation I know YouTube from.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. Well, Lena, I'm trying to get better at this. I've been told that I need to get better. And I do think this is I think multiple people have told me this, and it's information I needed to hear, is that sometimes if I know who the caller is, I get a little too comfortable identifying them maybe more than they wanted to be, or even the fact that they know me personally, right? So I just wanted to give you that opportunity rather than assuming. But yes, we're all part of the same humanist community, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
Yeah, absolutely. So Lena, yeah, so it's interesting. I'm glad you're bringing this up, because our humanist community, and others might remember us talking about it in the past, it feels very church-like. Sometimes I reclaim the word church in a way and kind of say it sort of feels like atheist church, but I always call it atheist church just because we literally sing hymns out of a hymnal and with an organ in the background. To me, it feels kind of churchish. That said, you're right. It's not a church. Our website, there's a whole page on the website saying this is not a church, right? And yet some people do refer to it as a church, don't they?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So tell me about, what your thoughts are with that. When you hear that, what are some of maybe the emotions you feel when you hear that? Or what, I don't know if it's fair to say it upsets you. What upsets you about it? What's the difficulty? Talk to us about that if you want.
Yeah. So I would say the thing about that for me is, like, when I'm trying to describe our congregation to like friends of mine that aren't as familiar with it, I've noticed sometimes the word church just slips out, and like I know our congregation, like that we don't identify as a church,
Right.
and like somehow just sometimes I've noticed like that word just slips out, and like I think that's probably because like I've heard that word so much just like in general society.
Yeah.
But like I know our congregation specifically doesn't identify that way.
Right.
I
Exactly.
can be the type of person who actually I call FUS a church. I
Oh,
do.
do you?
I
You
do. I do. And because again, right, it is about the common vernacular where I'm communicating and who I'm talking to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do. I don't go there just because I'm trying to get together with a group of people or because I want to hear a lecture. I'm going because I'm trying to connect with I want to be refilled. I want to be connected. I want that soul replenishment, even though regardless of what we think about that word soul. And so church for me, and it took me a long time to say it, I was always focused so strongly on the congregation word.
Yeah.
But especially in the last couple of years, I have just started to refer to it as a church because
Yeah.
what church meant for me was a place where I was able to find human connection in the here and now with people that I was there with, that we could discuss and have a conversation. And many times in my former faith, that was about God and that was about what that meant as we studied that. But now there is a little bit of embracing that connection. With that said, depends on my audience of who I'm talking to.
Yeah, I think, Lena, I love that you brought this up, and you mentioned to me earlier today that you were maybe going to call in and you had a question. I wondered if it might be this one in particular or something about this, because there's lots of words that FUS uses that are just part of its history, which, by the way, for those that don't know, well, I said FUS, I used its acronym. It's First Unitarian Society of Minneapolis. Lots of folks hear that. For those that aren't very familiar with it, it's literally where the word humanism, the first community that the word humanism was used to apply to a secular context, as opposed to Renaissance humanism or educational humanism or philosophical humanism, like actually talking about it in a secular sense. This is the first group that ever used the term in that sense. So it doesn't get any more historically humanist than this, which eventually led to the AHA and the Atheist Canada or Humanist Canada. All of those kind of stems back to this group. And it started off as a Darwin reading group back in the 1800s. It was never a Christian church. And maybe we'll wait and I'll bring up some of the other words that I actually find even more triggering from this context. But I want to bring it up not to dog shit on FUS, First Unitarian Society, but to open up this dialogue of what's helpful, what's not. And Lena, I agree. I'll describe FUS as like atheist church or like a church in the way that it's set up, but I don't call it a church unless I'm in, say, like a work setting. And I'm not quite ready for everybody to think of me as a total heretic. So I'll just reference my church, although I do that less and less. But even like I think of, so like I had a friend back 15, 20 years ago, a good friend of mine was a Muslim man, and his faith community did not refer to it as a church unless he was talking with other Christians. When he was talking with other Christians or just Christians, then he would refer to it as, oh yeah, my church meets on Friday nights, etc. And I kind of do the same thing with humanism, but I think historically, church is a Christian word, and we're not Christian. We've never been Christian. So, Lena, talk to us a little bit more about where you see in that. Justice is talking about how she really likes the word. Does that frustrate you, or can you kind of see where she's coming from, or what do you think there?
I really want to hear you, Lena.
I can definitely see where Justice is coming from with that. but yeah, Drew, like you said about like church traditionally being a Christian word, like I think that's mainly where my ick is coming from.
Yeah. Yeah. And I agree.
I do.
Yeah. Lena, any other words you want to share that that bother you? Or now I know you mentioned you're an atheist on the call in. Are you, and I'm not 100% sure on this, would you consider yourself a lifelong atheist, or was there ever a point where you had any belief in like a God or anything like that? And what was that like for you? Are there other words that have become problematic or not really?
No, not really, because I've been a part of First Unitarian Society like pretty much my whole life. So yeah.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, if you'd like, Lena, would you like to hear a couple of the words that our non-theistic humanist community uses that I find even more difficult than church? Would you like to hear that?
Okay, sure.
Yeah. So the two words I struggle with the most is referring to our leaders as ministers and those who are ordained as reverends. Even when I was a pastor, we didn't use the word reverend. At least how we interpreted it is we said reverend means most high one. And no pastor, no human is the most high one. So we don't ever, even if you're ordained, which is what reverend means, it means you're ordained. But even if you're ordained, we never use the word reverend. And in our atheist humanist community, we call the ordained leaders reverends and ministers. And I just call them executive directors. I actually refuse to use the term unless in certain contexts where historically people might be used to white folks like me stripping them of hard-earned credentials. In situations like that, if they like being called reverend, I'll call them reverend. Otherwise, I don't. I do not use the word reverend if they're an atheist or an atheist minister. But I don't know. That's just me. What are your thoughts on that, Lena? Do you think I'm going too far? Am I going overboard?
Drew, actually, now that you brought that up, I didn't even think about that before.
Yeah. Oh no. Now I've given you a, okay. Y'all type in the chat if this is a triggering word. Now I've become a stumbling block to you, Lena. Lena, I know you've never really been a Christian, but in Christian church contexts where they read like the Christian Bible a lot, stumbling block can be maybe not triggering, but certainly eye-rolling. What are your thoughts, Justice?
Okay.
Stumbling block.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I do agree with you. I mean, it really comes down to the title, and sometimes people do like that. You and I both have a friend that likes to be called the evangelist.
Yeah.
And that's a triggering word. The secular, the ethical evangelist, right? Yep.
Yeah.
And they're amazing. They're an amazing person.
I know exactly who you're talking about.
But that word is really hard for me because that was one of the areas that I was working towards as a missionary and to be an evangelist. And so thinking of that same style of word, that's a rough word to hit. Though there is another word we've got to hit, backsliding.
Yes, I just saw that come up. Here we go. We're putting it on the screen. Backsliding. Oh my word.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a rough one. And Lena here, I don't know, stop me if you're already familiar, but in Christian terms, that's now, Justice, you talk about earlier before Lena came on, talking about terms that are used almost as a power tool or used to pummel, right? And so for those who've been beaten up, where this word backsliding becomes an attack against us, that can be especially difficult. And so then you have somebody might come around. So tell me if I'm connecting your dots from before the right way, Justice, where, so you're saying some of us, somebody else might come along and be like, oh, well, I kind of like the word backsliding. I'm going to reclaim that word because I think it's a powerful word. But then what can that end up doing to other people that were really hurt by it? I think you were kind of going in that direction. Go ahead and connect those dots, or tell me to fuck off if I'm totally in the wrong direction.
I mean, it really does hit it. This is the thing. Words are words. They don't contain power in and of themselves. They contain the power that we attribute to them. Yeah. And that's the situation. What we as a culture and what we as individuals attribute to specific words. And those words many times do carry. Like this is the craziest thing. Like I might approach life with skepticism. I approach it from a scientific basis, and yet words, just the very concept of words, can illustrate inside of our psyche and our minds because of the way that they hit specific neurons, the way they hit specific areas. They light up feelings and emotions and effects. When someone says the word abomination to me, even in just the slightest, like not even talking about me specifically, but they say the word abomination, it hits hard. Yeah. It hits in ways that I have had to figure out, what do I do to reclaim these words? What words do I handle? And that's why I actually talk about the word abomination, because it's a form of reclaiming it for myself and slipping from the abomination into the celestial of stepping forward. And how do you reclaim those style of words? Because they can be used to hurt. And so there is this level of, how do we handle and how do we engage and how do we work with communities? For instance, there are some words, there are certain words for those in minority communities. Yeah. Like for instance, hey, happy Pride, everyone.
Happy Pride.
I have been referred to. And I hate those words, and they are very painful. And I've taken some of those words back, queer being a big one of them. And so I do call myself queer, even though that was used as the derogatory word to define who I was. Yeah,
absolutely.
Doesn't mean it doesn't hurt people. I've seen that word rip people to shreds.
Yeah. I'd love to hear more about your process, because yes, abomination is a huge one. And before we go there though, Lena,
Lena,
you've been so generous with your time and this call, and thank you for hanging out, because that's the thing, folks and fam, like Justice, myself, Lena, like we all know each other in the real life. It's almost like we're just sitting around a living room and we're just hanging out. But again, folks, call in. The lines are open. I'm going to give a call out to we'll call them the back office, our production crew. That's the term, our crew, or chat mods. Anyone, I would love if you're scrolling through and you see, because I'm not so good at multitasking, apparently. If you see any other words that people have shared, I put up backsliding. Just go ahead, throw some up every now and then, and we can chat on them. We can talk through them. Also, too, I posted these same questions on Facebook a few days ago, and I have a ton of responses that people shared that we can talk through those as well. But I'd rather talk through the chat if folks got it. Okay. Oh, you got it. Okay. I'm like, wait, you got it? Is a triggering phrase? I didn't even know that. And then I realized it was the Skeptic Haven crew saying they got it. All right. Thanks, folks. But yeah, no. So call in. I missed that now. Call in. The lines are open. Chat. We'll throw up your answers from the chat. We'd rather you call in, but certainly we'll throw up answers from the chat. And then as a backstop, we also have a bunch of answers that were shared on Facebook. And so do that. Lena, though, anything else you want to share before we let you continue on with your evening? It's been great having you on to chat a bit.
Yeah, I'm glad I was able to call in again.
Yeah. Absolutely,
Thanks so much,
Lena. Thank you so much. All right, you take care. You have a good night, and we'll talk to you later, okay? Thanks for coming on again. It's always good to hear you.
Yes, definitely. Bye, Drew. Bye, Justice.
Bye, Lena.
Bye, Lena. Drew, can I give testimony?
Yeah, give testimony. Bring it down.
Can I bear witness
notice.
to it all?
All right, testimony. Raise your hand if you're a little triggered. No.
We gotta bring in the witness. We gotta share from our
Give
heart,
us that good news.
from
Give us
our
that
soul.
gospel,
We're gonna give the
sister.
good
give
word.
Us that gospel.
Felicity Sheridan checks. How about testimony and witness? Old conversion evangelicalism bait. Absolutely. Oh boy, do I understand those words.
For real. Well, I can go ahead here. I'll read through some of what we saw on Facebook earlier. Certainly a couple of these, I think we want to circle back on at least. At least I'd like to, unless we all of a sudden get flooded with calls.
Let's do this.
But if we do get flooded with calls, folks, that's okay. And even if you want to call in about something that has nothing to do with this, that's okay. Call in, share about whatever your boots on the ground challenges are that you might be facing. Again, those are prioritized. Whatever challenges you're facing as you navigate life after faith, that is the priority. We'll talk through it. We'll walk through it. Here's another triggering word. We'll shoulder the burden together. Okay. And there's the comment. How about testimony and witness? Old conversion evangelism bait. Yes, it's the bait. Well, folks, my bait to you is call in, chat with us, and that would be amazing. But yeah, testimony and witness. Give a testimony, Justice. Give a testimony. I honestly thought you were actually going to testify, is what I thought.
Well, I can do that too.
Now, okay, so before I start reading answers from Facebook, let's talk about this for a moment, Justice. So there's a lot of I think there's a type of reclaiming. There can be a different type of reclaiming where we reclaim it in a serious way and rephrase it. And sometimes we'll hear people talk about, not just we're talking in a post-faith context, but you'll also hear this in other contexts. Social justice. Well, you were just referencing to situations where those who are marginalized voices and reclaiming words that were used very potently and offensively, and reclaiming those in a very serious way. Also, a lot of what we're doing tonight, and kind of what we do every week on this show, is reclaiming in like a playful, fun way. Like right now, when we put up Felicia's, testimony and given testimony, declaring witness, or however we worded it. We're making jokes, right? You're given a fake fun testimony in your preacher voice and all these different kinds of things. I'd love to explore a little bit about that difference of when might we claim and reframe in a serious way? When do we, maybe claiming isn't even the right word then. Maybe it's just making fun of it. I'll venture out, at least for myself, part of it is not licensed professional therapy, but I find it therapeutic to be like, okay, that which gives me jitters, I'm going to fucking find a way to twist it, reframe it, and laugh the fuck at that shit. Such as the benediction every week. Some folks might look at the fact that we call it a benediction, how we close out the show. And sometimes they're fun, playful, sarcastic benedictions, and sometimes they're very serious, moving benedictions. But we're using that term to reclaim it kind of in a fun, mocking way, but also in kind of a serious way, right? What do you see the difference there? What are some of the things that might play a role in why we go one direction over the other?
So for me, words have power. And I was, and you know a lot more about my story than I feel always comfortable to share on here, but words were something that held me back and held me down. And language was something that I struggled deeply with. And I still do to this day. The words, abomination is something because I was called that. And that was a phrase that was used towards me by people that I deeply, deeply cared about and deeply, deeply loved. And it was a word that was ingrained into my psyche in many times as I've gone through the things that I have. Words like, and we talk about them, right? Being dumb, being unable to actually pull off the stuff, talking about how you are, each of those words, they bear specific weight. And when we try and shift them, and for me, my shifting has come a lot of times of, exploring what does religion mean to me and maybe playing it on the side things. For instance, it took me a long time to start to play with Christian and spiritual language beyond screaming in them in derogatory manners because of the damage that was done to me, but more doing the, oh, I can give you the Holy Ghost.
Justice, you want to go ahead and read off this amazing super chat?
We've got it. $4.99 from @Detroit Atheist Queen 247. And I call down from on high and I bring you the good news. Justice almost gave me the Holy Ghost earlier.
Oh, that's fantastic. Detroit Atheist Queen, as always, Kelly, thank you for your continued and ongoing support. And by the way, y'all, I forget when, but it went the exact date, but in a handful of weeks, just a small handful, the Detroit Atheist Queen is going to be sitting next to me here on the show. So we're looking forward to that very, very much emphatically, Kelly. All right. So thanks again for the super chat and all the support as always.
Absolutely. So I've been taking the words recently heavily. So I sit out on my porch during the weekends and I write those words down. Those words that once held such deep power and deep sway in my life, including spiritual words like reverent and spiritual and the connections of what those actually meant. And then I flip them around and I play with them and I see what that actually means for me as a person. And so that is a form of reclaiming for me. When I started the whole reclamation process, what I found was actually slipping into playing with spiritual concepts and paganism. Why? Do I believe in an external God or anything like those? No, but it is an ability for digging deeper and understanding oneself. And so, you know, for instance, I've got my rosary right here. And I use that rosary as I try and de-inflate the power that was once put onto my soul and my life. When I use soul, I'm having a lot of fun with it, using it for this specific call. But it's helping find meaning in our life in the here and now. Releasing that pain from the past so that I can focus on taking care of my kids, so that I can start embracing connections with you and with others. Those people who are watching in, I want to know more about you, but for me to be able to connect with others, I have to sometimes let go of the chains and the bondage and the things that have held me back for so long.
Yeah. And those are powerful things, right? We're talking, you know, a lot of the focus tonight is on reclaiming words, but it's also reclaiming practices. It's reclaiming states of mind and reframing it. And again, everybody's journey, I suppose it almost sounds cliche to use this kind of terminology, but everyone's journey is a little bit different. In other words, for some of this stuff, well, it's helpful. Like I've shared with, you know, some stuff that my therapist has shared with me. I've shared that with you all, where I'll say like, hey, should we, you know, and do I fit into this box? Do I fit into that box? And my therapist will say, we can explore that if you think it'd be helpful. But we don't, it's not anything we have to. Some folks may have to explore those things. In my life, for the types of boxes I brought up, he said, yeah, if it's helpful, then we can find labels for you. But I'm not in the business of putting you in labels just for the sake of putting on labels. And I think a lot of that is here too, is everyone's journey is a little bit different. And what are there words out there that are genuinely helpful? It sounds like reclaiming that word abomination is genuinely helpful for you in reclaiming the power that word had. And there too, you know, I mean, we mentioned paganism, we mentioned all these things. Some folks might look at this and be like, oh my word, power, words don't hold power. We're not talking about a supernatural force, are we, Justice? We're talking about just the, what would you say? Just the cognitive power, the emotive power that based on previous experiences, words carry that context into the future in how we receive and process those words, right?
Let's have some fun here. Let's find some places where you and I disagree. I love finding places that you and I disagree. Y'all. Why? And the reason why is because atheists can disagree about things. We're not a monolith. And
Yeah.
especially when you're talking about living life forward and you're moving forward. So spirituality.
If I can just jump in real quick on
do.
this as we set this up. Okay. Something I want folks to know. I wouldn't want anybody to be like, oh my word, is Justice blindsiding Drew and is going to try and like some kind of gotcha moment to highlight the differences or where Drew's wrong. No, Justice knows. In fact, it was just a couple weeks ago when you and I we grabbed coffee and we're going for a walk, and we went for like a 3-hour walk and we're just talking about things. Yes, y'all, Justice is actually a real friend in my life, quite possibly my closest friend. And so, yeah, we're walking, we're talking, and something I've highlighted not only to Justice privately, but I've also stated it on the show a couple times. Part of my hope and desire for this show is that we can use it to demonstrate how, kind of like a few weeks ago when we were talking about being atheist with a fundamentalist mindset where everybody's got to agree with me, my way or the highway. We want to demonstrate with this show that it's okay for us to not come to the exact same answers on every single thing. That's okay. Mm-hmm. And so I think I know where Justice is going with this. I'm not 100% sure. I'm pretty sure. I'm like 99% sure. But yes, we can come to different conclusions. Including words that we use, and those of us who might want to reclaim and reframe, and those of us where we might be like, no, that I get what you're saying, but no, thank you. Real quick, one more thing before we move on. I think I just saw a super chat climb through.
Yeah.
Yes, here we go. Steve Jacatis, my friend, my man, $6.99 Canadian. Coming through, Mr. Steve. And what does he say? Let's get the Bekius point. Justice, I don't even know what the fuck this is talking about. Steve, what is it? Justice, do you know?
I don't. But I mean, are we trying to say that we need to get to the point?
Single damn thing. I mean, I don't know what I would even have to point at. I could point at that movie poster over there, Clockwork Orange. Don't we love it? We could point over here at Jaws. I mean, hey, we could point at all kinds of things. I don't know that any of it matters. So, Steve, this is insanity, and I'm not even going to touch it. I'm not going to reclaim it or reframe it. I'm just going to abandon it altogether. And with that, much love, brother. Thank you for the support. But also, fuck out of here with your pointing, taunting, your point entrapment. Justice, okay, what do you want to highlight our differences on?
Yeah, so you just said it. We were getting down the whole trail about science and skepticism and all these concepts, and that when we talk about these words, we're not really talking about religion. We're not really talking about a real deity. But are we? That's the power when we talk about these words and these concepts. Because guess what? Scientism is a thing. Sometimes we can bury ourselves in the whole things that we believe so strongly in one specific concept that we can sometimes hold so deeply that it must be this one way. And that's where you kind of sometimes get into the concept. For me, I do practice. I light incense. I worship the goddess Soon. I spend time burning on my porch and praying, and spend time in reflective meditation. And sometimes I do go back and forth between, is that a real God? No, I don't hold into this because I've never seen proof of a God. But for me, in the person of understanding things, of needing boundaries, of needing to put locks, of needing to separate myself from my past while also moving forward and having the level of protection that I need in my life for those human connections that I need to have, Soon is very, very real to me.
Yeah.
And that's where I think, I know a lot of atheists would probably go very strongly, holy crap, you're talking about a God. You're talking about a goddess, and you worship a goddess, and you spend real practice and effort to do this. There's some debate whether or not I'd say it's real, but for me, it is deeply real.
So I want to jump in real quick, Justice. So things that I'm guessing folks are hearing and maybe standing out to folks. You said, and just a reminder that when you said soon is very real, you're not talking about like coming soon. You're talking about the goddess you
soon.
named is
The goddess
the
soon.
goddess's name is soon, right? So you're naming a goddess that you said you worship. You said you pray to. You mentioned a few other ritual type things such as meditation that and burning incense that maybe are a little less triggering for some folks. But you mentioned those words. And then if I'm hearing you right, you're coming back around saying that not necessarily that you're believing them in like a literal way where you believe that this God exists and you're actually, but it's more, would you almost describe it as like as a role play of a therapeutic role play? How help us understand why you would worship a God that you don't literally believe in.
It's a pragmatic, because when we're talking about trying to make adjustments and changes in our life, what does that actually look like? Spending time of personal self-reflection and meditation is where we try and understand those aspects and those things. And I've done all sorts of different types of meditations, and sometimes those work. For me, taking back and reclaiming those spiritual words that once did such great harm to me, and embracing the concept of reverence and humility and words that I still, like, even now saying them, I'm getting those like spider tinglies going through my skin. I can't believe that I'm saying these words. They allow me to start to see a little bit more of my own humanity. And so it is like, would I say that I worship a God, or do I believe in the God as a literal thing? Hell no. I don't believe there's a God. I have not seen proof of a God. And the gods that had been told of to me, the gods that I knew when I was a kid, those gods are effing evil. They are monsters. And they are horrific. And if we ever even found proof, I've never seen proof that they existed. If they even found proof that they existed, I wouldn't believe in them either. I would say, yes, they're real, but I wouldn't follow them. Why? Because they're fucking monsters. And at the same time, from a pragmatic sense, I do worship the goddess soon. I do spend time taking focus and energy to understand my own self, to understand how I can connect and embody my human worth to others through understanding how the goddess soon would want me to behave.
So I'm interested. I'm going to throw up this message by Felicia. I think Justice, and I'd just love to hear your thoughts on it, on what Felicia's sharing. I think Justice is worshiping, quote unquote, out of necessity to fill the trained religious habits, pragmatic management of enforced cultural norms. What are your thoughts there, Justice?
I love it. Hey, Felicity, let's have some more conversations. Why don't you call in? Let's have some talks about this. I'd love that. Actually, I will push back on that. I would agree that we have training and we do have things. When I left the faith, I completely separate and organized and pushed myself completely out of the process. I had completely broken myself. So the habits and the behaviors and the cultural renditions. In fact, that was a struggle point with going to FUS, was I was literally bringing that stuff back into my life that I had completely separated from. And then
on that real quick, just in agreement with you.
Please do.
When I first moved to Minnesota from Chicago, very first Sunday, I said, I need to find community. I already knew of David Breeden because I was connected with David Breeden, which, if y'all don't know, and this is where I say kind of the primary thread of humanism is oftentimes so disconnected from the primary thread of atheism that they're very siloed from each other. And so David Breeden is the former executive director, senior minister of First Unitarian Society, who just won the legendary Lifetime Achievement Award for humanism 2 years ago, and awarded by the American Humanist Association. Most atheists have never heard his name, and he won the Lifetime Achievement Award. This dude is a fucking legend, okay? So I went for him, and I walked in. I was immediately triggered. Why are we sitting in pews? Wooden pews. Why is there an organ? Why do we have hymnals, much less are we standing up to sing them together? What the fuck is this? Triggered out of my mind. But yeah, so I just want to throw that in there. Yeah, so triggered by FUS at first. Some people love it though, right? It's finding the right community for you. Anyway, a little bit of a detour there.
This was actually an approach my therapist asked me to try.
Yeah.
And then I found how practical it actually was. And so it was
your ritual work or whatnot as a the term you use is a hedge witch. Do I have that right?
As a hedge witch, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I love embracing the liminality of life, right? As we try and understand the concepts between one set of language, spiritual language, right? Yeah. And what that has a tie-ins to ourselves, as well as understanding the factor that, well, guess what? There is no fucking God.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And how do we put those two into play? And we bounce between the forces. As a technobot, or whatever you want to call me, as a techno nerd, I live in that cyber world, half in the cyber world, half in the real world. How do I embrace my human soul? How do I embrace what it means to have human connection? And so that's where I embrace the liminality that is between those two connections. Understanding that things are not black and white. Understanding that things can fill us in many different ways. And so when I say the word, in the queer community, we say the word queer, right? Or we say the word a faggot, right? And the power that those words then thus have.
Yeah.
For some of us, it is a form of reclaiming. And for some of us, it is super, super damaging. And guess what? It can be both.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, okay? And maybe I'd love to have you on sometime where we delve more into the liminality and things like this. I would love to hear, and maybe we hold off, maybe we integrate this with the next call. But I'd love for some of what you're delving into here and some of what you shared, you talk about how some of these words can be hurtful or caused harm even to some folks while also empowering to others. And how do we navigate that? But that said, that might not be the question of our next, but I wonder if our next caller is actually just following your advice on calling in just now. So here we have, folks. Next up, we have Felicia. Yay! Felicia's pronouns are she, her, calling out of New York. Felicia describes herself as a relational atheist, and she's calling in because, quote, justice dared me to. All right, pushing the big green button, folks. Here we have Felicia. It is no secret you are on live with Justice and Drew. How are you doing?
Hello.
Hi. Hey, Justice. Hey, Drew. I'm doing very well. Thank you for asking me to call in. But Justice, you said you wanted to push back on something?
What's your statement?
Should I pull that back up? Yeah, do we have the statement?
Yeah, let's pull the statement up,
folks. Oh, no,
and I want to hear what Felicia has to say.
Okay. Yeah, where? Okay, y'all start talking. I'm going to see if I can find the statement to pull it up. And if anybody else finds it first, go ahead and throw it up.
Good to see you.
It is good to see you. Good to hear you.
I'm looking, but don't see it either yet.
Okay.
It's okay. So basically, my statement was justice worships out of a pragmatic necessity to fill a void in the religious training she basically received.
Mm-hmm. You want to expound a bit? I want to hear what your thoughts are on what you were thinking there.
Yeah, sure. I think it is very pragmatic management of what was a trained and enforced cultural norm for you, and I don't necessarily disagree with it. I think it's a good way to manage that sort of loss that a lot of people who deconstruct feel. Yeah. I went in the opposite direction of that, Justice, and I kind of don't. For people like me, I kind of don't recommend taking the path I took, because I just got super depressed for about 6 years. And didn't fill that void, and that made things kind of especially difficult. But I kind of like the idea of fake worshiping to get through it, to work through it, you know?
It's finding the here and now, the connections that you have, and listening to you. I send like so much hugs your way because when I left the faith, it took me a lot to recover. So I want to definitely sending some care your way and your thought process on that. What words have you been able to reclaim any words yourself or things that are now tying into your humanity a bit more from those words that were you once
Oh,
used?
boy, it's been almost 20 years now, but I would say one of the coolest words that I've been able to reclaim is the word mystery. Because as a Catholic, mystery is the big thing, right? God is the mystery. Life is mystery, and it's got this big theological shroud to it that it encapsulates everything. But for me nowadays, mystery is like the unknown, the actual honest unknown that I'm going off to discover, that I need to figure out. It's not this big metaphysical boogeyman in the ether. It's this. It's not known yet, but it's knowable. But we have to work towards it. It's a goal rather than something that's always veiled and shrouded in the unattainable until you die, which is just miserable to think about.
Yeah.
Mystery
Wow.
is such a
Mystery.
beautiful,
Right.
powerful word.
Yes. And that's
It's an amazing word.
Too. Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think
it's an amazing word because science is like this big mystery, this big unraveling mystery that we try to figure out. We're trying to figure out how reality operates, and we don't give that the respect it deserves. You know, the universe isn't a god as far as I'm concerned, but man, is it so cool to be able to like look at all of this stuff and be like, wow, this exists. That's cool, man. I can't wait to play around with it.
It's that word right there has so much immense power because when we use mystery in my background, the word mystery literally was, well, God knows it. So why do I need to worry about it? God knows it. Jesus said it, and there we go. So God, let's not forget it, you know? But now living life with curiosity and going, holy shit, look at that. What in the world? That does not make sense to me. I'm going to seek to try and understand it. Mystery carries so much to it. And when you think about the emotions and the absolutely embracing of the physicality of the word mystery, it can really kind of invoke spiritual connection in one's life.
I love that. I love
that
so much.
You know, I also want to juxtapose this with the evangelical side of things because as a Catholic, I didn't really hold on to revelation, but the weird thing about evangelicalism that I've noticed as a former Catholic is you have mystery and then you also have revelation. It's the perfect inquiry killer. It's the perfect like seeking killer. It's saying, hey, everything's mystery, but God will reveal it one day. And it's like, well, then why should I bother, right? Like, why should I bother with figuring out evolution, with figuring out computers and technology? Why should we bother with nuclear fusion and things like that? Because it'll just be revealed. And I guess the way to put it is not hate it, it's triggering for me. I just dislike that combination so very much.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, revelation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and it
I
shows
love that juxtaposition that you were saying. Go for it, Drew.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, it just shows how each of us have very different sets of words that are triggering and actions that are triggering based on how we received them, right? Like mystery is one that was never a huge part of my vocabulary in my version of Christianity. That said, I hate the word spiritual. Like that's triggering as fuck to me. Spirituality, even spirit, right? But that's where we're all in different realms here. But I love hearing both of you talking about your exposure, your experience with the word mystery, because it's helping me see that word through a lens I hadn't known before. And so thank you for that, because that's really helpful and fascinating in some ways.
Drew,
Hey,
if I hit on something a little bit too far, but you and I went on that walk the other week.
oh yeah, no.
Mind if I share this?
I do actually, before we close, I do want to circle back on spirituality itself. I guess maybe the word triggering wasn't right. It gives me a bit of the ick, and I'd like to talk about that more. But I do see how it can be really helpful, and I see why some people do use it. But yeah, maybe that's a slightly different conversation, which maybe Felicia wants to stick around for or not. But I do want, Felicia, I want to make sure, I might have misheard something. I might be misconnecting something. So correct me if I'm wrong, or just tell me to fuck off. Okay, either way. But I think I heard you say that you were interested, and Justice, maybe you even went there already, and I just misconnected that. But I think, Felicia, I had heard you say that before you came on, when we first read your comment, and Justice said, some of this I would push back on a bit, I think was her words. And then I think when you came on, you said, I want to know what you'd push back on. And I don't think the conversation ever quite went there, specifically what Justice would push back on regarding your message, your chat. Am I understanding that correct, Felicia, or am I totally misreading everything?
Oh, I just thought it would be a really interesting conversation to have, but we took it in a different direction, and that's cool too.
And I think you and if you and I had a good conversation, we'd be able to get really into this. Because I do think there's a little bit of a back and forth between it. Did I choose the process that I do because of my background? Possibly. We don't know what the training did as a child and why I now do it today. And I would agree with you. But I went through a huge period of time where I did it. And then I just recently started to embrace it, to try and play to remove the power that those words once had. But I do kind of like the statement. There is that thing of, why do I like the word church? Well, church for me, way back in the day, was the group of people that I connected with that were there for me when I had issues and had problems. And so churches in our congregation, even though it is a quote unquote humanist congregation, the word church kind of ties into that whole thing. So I hear that. I was going to say, Drew, if you remember on our walk, you hit the mystery. And I loved what you had to say about the mystery with the tree. When we were walking down the path, we were talking about this conversation. Drew pointed out the ridges and the edges of a very big walnut tree.
Yes.
And just the beautiful mysteries. We can understand how that plant was born and grown, but we look at the ridges, the concepts, what it means to put our feet on the ground, to put our hands and arms around a tree, to feel the embrace of nature in the connection and the mystery of the here and now. And I just, listening to what you had to say, Felicity, that just like hit that
Felicia.
For me right away. Felicia, so sorry.
It's okay.
Well, yeah,
I saw the F and I went
everybody's
the wrong way.
What you're referencing there with the trade.
So I'll take
it.
Felicia, I so appreciate you. That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah. I do think with the tray, I was talking about how when we went on our walk, how when I was fresh out of the faith, my whole understanding of reality, like many of us, was so connected, rooted in my understanding of what the Hebrew and Christian scriptures told us. That then when I saw that as no longer valid, I was like, what even is reality? I don't even know what the fuck reality is anymore. And so I would go for long meandering walks. I kind of almost plugged out of everyone and everything for about 6 months. And I basically almost did like a 6-month retreat, which if you unplug from your marriage for 6 months, that tends to end it. So, but so I just left. I left for like 6 months, and I felt the need to reconstruct my sense of reality from the ground up. And part of what I would do is, as I'm going on these long walks through the city of Chicago, I would just texture was big for me. I would touch trees, run my hands over trees, over the bark. And that's what I was illustrating for justice, and really just doing it. I was tapping back into that, or just be like, okay, this is real. This is grounding. And I would ground myself by touching, feeling nature. This is real. This is reality. And for me, I found that incredibly helpful. I couldn't afford therapy back then, and I don't think the Secular Therapy Project even existed, but I found that exercise therapeutic and very helpful in just helping my brain say, nope, this is real. I can touch it, which I know that doesn't necessarily mean it's real just because in my brain I think I'm sensing it. But for me, it was good enough. Okay. And yeah, so I think absolutely, Justice. I think you're right. That applies to a lot of this, right? What's helpful, what is real, how do words use, how do we integrate practices into that? What's triggering and what can be reclaimed? Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I think, you know what really helped me, Drew, if you don't mind if I
yeah, please.
Expound on that a little bit.
Please do.
But what really helped me was finally exiting the Christian sort of mindset of we exist inside this sandbox called the universe as separate from it. And rather than thinking of like the universe as this marble in a basket type of thing, where the universe is a thing unto itself, I'd rather started thinking of the universe and its reality as a whole as just the everything. And eventually I came to understand it more as like, well, now, if I'm not separate from the universe in any meaningful way, then I must therefore be part of the universe. I must be the universe. I must be part of the universe. I must be somewhat part of the universe. And that's what really like pushed me towards like the relational aspect of things, that made me realize, oh yeah, we're all just part of that universe. We're all just part of reality. And that's just what reality is, you know?
Yeah. Absolutely. No, I love it. And
I need to step away from the idea that, you know, we exist separate from the universe and that we are of the universe. That's it.
Yes.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's finding a way how we navigate, you know, like we mentioned earlier, existentialism, existential dread can be a big thing after leaving the faith, or even still in it, making our way out. And existentialism, right? Just finding where we are and how we fit in and what's bigger than this. And what is it all?
Yeah.
What is reality itself? And
The
words can
real
play a role in it. Some words are helpful, some words aren't. Some practices are helpful, some practices aren't. But there's an individualization to that. Okay. Hey, bless you, Justice. Bless
Sorry,
you.
that caught me off guard.
I never understood when people say bless you. I never understood it as a supernatural thing. I always understood it, well, maybe to some degree. My understanding as a pastor, when I was a pastor, I would regularly talk about how the Greek and Hebrew words for blessing in the Bible aren't always God blessing people. It's also people blessing one another, which all blessing means is to show favor. To bless means to show someone favor. And so people can bless each other. People can bless God according to how the words are used. So for me, because I regularly used the word blessing in a person-to-person, completely secular sense as a Christian, I still use it that way now, but I know that can be really triggering for folks.
So when you're talking about the word blessing, there's this, sometimes when a blessing is what you read from the Bible. And I think, you know, we may have a bullshit Bible verse of the week.
Oh,
time?
Fun stuff. Oh, do you think it's time? Should we go ahead?
Time.
Alicia, do you want to join us for a bullshit Bible verse of the week?
I think we should have
every verse of the Bible's bullshit. I'm down for that.
Yes. As folks have heard me say many, many times, I have made the claim maybe one day I'll be proven wrong, but I've made the claim that I feel pretty confident I could demonstrate how literally every verse in the Bible is at least a little bit bullshit. But yes. So we'll this week's bullshit Bible verse of the week is coming to us from Matthew 26:41. Now I want to demonstrate, and if Felicia along the way you want to demonstrate why this contextual clarification may be necessary, since you were the one that pointed out, we can do that, but we certainly don't have to. But I am going to give the context, the biblical context, since as a former evangelical, as a former emerging churcher, that's the kind of evangelical I was. Does that even count? I don't know. As a former emerging church leader, we were all about context, folks. In the context here in Matthew 26:41, we've got Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane with 11 of his 12 disciples, and maybe a few women thrown into the mix, but we don't count them, right? Because we are misogynistic as fuck in these stories. But we've got at least 11 dudes, and the one has betrayed Jesus, and so who knows what's going to happen, and people are on the march. And so Jesus tells his disciples these words: watch and pray, because Jesus, he's going off to pray. Jesus is going to go pray. Jesus is having a midlife crisis, an end-of-life crisis, so the lore goes. And Jesus is praying and begging and pleading with himself, with his Father, his heavenly Father, to please let this cup pass from him. He doesn't want to go to the cross tonight. He's about to go to the cross. He's going to be seized by armed guards, and he's praying, please, God, give me the strength, or praying to himself to give me the strength, etc. And so he says, y'all need to go out, keep watch out for these motherfuckers with swords coming for me. And he says this: watch. This is the bullshit Bible verse of the week, y'all. Watch and pray so that you will not fall into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the body is weak. Thus, we have there the bullshit Bible verse of the week. So where I'm going with it is we've got Jesus saying, watch and pray so that you will not fall into the temptation of what? Of fucking sleep. Don't fall into the temptation of letting yourself sleep when the God of wonders has called you into action. Fuck off if you think sleep is important. The spirit might be willing. Your spirit might be falling in line, but we fucking know how evil your God's be damn body is, and your body is weak and sleepy, and fuck you if you fucking give in to natural fucking urges. Thus saith the Lord. So Justice Alicia,
I go a different direction with that one. So you went for the misogynist view. Instead, I see this as Jesus and his gay polycule.
Okay.
Jesus and his gay polycule, he went off to pray, and now he's coming back, and he's saying his flesh is weak.
Oh no, Justice! Now I'm just imagining Kent Hovind and Matt Powell behind closed doors, and I'm just like, oh no, my spirit says no, Matt, but my body's weak. Oh God, I'm gonna puke.
Oh my word! Wow.
I mean, come on.
Bullshits, y'all. This is glorious. I did not expect us to be going.
But if you really want to know why that verse is bullshit, I'll tell you. It's because this is literally placing the blame on addicts.
Yep.
You could literally use this against addicts for being addicted and blaming them for having a physical addiction to something and saying, oh, no, it's all purely mental, when that is complete bullshit, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow, that is so good. Just power through, right?
Yeah.
Just power through.
You just power through. You'll be fine. No, you're not going to be fine. A heroin addict trying to power through withdrawal symptoms could die.
Yeah. But just pray. Just watch and pray.
Just pray. You'll be fine.
Don't fall. Don't fall into temptation. Just watch and pray, Felicia. Just watch and pray.
I've been doing that I did that for so long. I have a board of 54 people who have said they would pray for me, Drew. And I've yet to see an effect from it.
Oh,
I'm waiting. If personal revelation is evidence of God, personal non-revelation is just as strong.
yes. Oh,
So
brutal.
what's the verdict?
What's the verdict, y'all? All right, so Matthew 26:41, verdict says
Bullshit.
Bullshit. Felicia, I didn't hear you. Is it bullshit, or are you coming around the corner?
It's bullshit. I got cut off. I guess you didn't hear me.
Oh, I didn't hear you say bullshit. I'm sorry. Now I'm picking on you. No. Bullshit. All right.
It's hard for
what do we
anyone to
have
hear
here?
over my voice.
We have a comment that has been placed. Looks like the crew is saying negative effect, or someone on the crew, negative effects are actually the tested truth behind prayers. Negative effects are the tested truth. But hold on. All prayers are answered. All prayers are answered, Felicia. All prayers are answered, Justice, and the Skeptic Haven production crew that suggested that. They're all answered. It's just they're either answered as yes, no, or maybe. So maybe the God of Wonders wants a little mystery in why some folks might have leukemia. Right?
I think my tarot deck has a better of success rate than God's prayers. I'm sorry. At least it gives me a little more, oomph when you start to put in the language of this instead of a yes, no, and maybe.
Oh, Felicia, good conversation. Justice. Well, so
thank you so much for having me, Drew. Appreciate it.
No, thank you. And thanks for calling in. Thanks for heeding Justice's demand. Was it a demand? Was it a call to arms? I don't know what it was. But so I would like, and Felicia, before you jump off, I want to know whether or not you would like to stick around and join us for this conversation or not. It's totally up to you. But okay, I would like to take at least a few minutes. And again, folks, y'all sick of talking about this? You got something else? You got as I like to say, a live in action, boots on the ground challenge you want to talk through? We're not done yet. So feel free to call in. The lines are still open. Okay. But in the meanwhile, I'd love to take a few minutes to talk specifically. I know, Justice, a lot of the things that you've shared with us and that we've discussed kind of delve into some things that I suppose could be labeled as spirituality, but we haven't really talked about the word spirituality or the word soul. I know you mentioned you like it. I kind of like the word as well, but maybe not in the way folks might say. I would love to kind of chat a little bit specifically about this because spirituality is such a big word. Of course, Sam Harris is a proponent of talking about secular spirituality. There's others as well. There's actually a lot of really big conversations right now in the secular community about this concept of secular spirituality. So I'd love to dive into that a little bit and some of, is it helpful? Is it not? The word itself. So Felicia, would you like to, first of all, before we even go there, did you have anything else you wanted to talk about as you called in? You also have the option, if not really, then do you want to stick around and chat with us on this, or do you, or we can allow you a graceful, it's all fucking at least a little triggering to me, a graceful exit, and Justice and I can pick up the conversation from here. But I'm inviting you to stick around if you'd like.
I'm going to stick around until somebody else calls in to shut me up. So that's my challenge out to you out there in the chat. You need to if somebody else calls in, that will shut me up. But until then, no, I'll stick around.
Sounds good. Excellent. And let's see. So, and again, it's great having you join us, Felicia. And thank you for all the work that you do with Skeptic Haven and that you're helping us out with these days. So we appreciate it. Everyone, we're getting better and better. hopefully. Definitely, I think I'm biased because at least in part to some of the ways that Felicia's been helping out here behind the scenes and whatnot. So thank you. And so I'm curious. I want to talk about or discuss with you all, as opposed to the appearance of a monologue, this idea of spirituality. It is a word that tends to draw a lot. It's a very contentious word. I'll say, I think part of the reason why it is so contentious more than others is because it contains the word spirit. And so I think where even those, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, legit, if you disagree, let me know. My thought, how I've connected it, is that the reason why spirituality is such a contentious term, again, folks like Sam Harris like this concept of a secular spirituality. We don't actually have a spirit, but we still can be spiritual and practice spirituality, and it is a helpful word. Others would come across and say, it is confusing. It doesn't really even mean anything. Is there any value for it? And yeah, we don't even have spirits. So why would we talk? It's just, it is full of no use whatsoever. And I'll be honest, it's not, I believe where I come out on this, I'll just say this, and then I want to hear your all thoughts, is where I come at it is, yeah, we don't have spirits. And I just think there's other words and concepts we can use. I just, it's not that it triggers me necessarily. I'm not sure it's super helpful for me at least. And it just kind of gives me the ick a little bit. It just feels gross. What are your thoughts? Felicia, do you want to kick us off? What are your thoughts on the concept of spirituality?
Yeah, so I think when Sam Harris talks about secular spirituality, he's really speaking about spirituality in the colloquial sense of a community with uplifting emotional value. And so there's really a very lack of a sense of strong communal ties within secular society. It's very informal or very overly formal, and very I don't know, handshaky. You go your path, I go mine. There's this lack of almost family to it that a church or a religious congregation would have. And I think that's kind of what the spirituality part of secular spirituality sort of means from a Sam Harris point of view. There's the positive, emotional, uplifting feeling of being part of that part of society. But I also think that there is the woo part of society that will latch on to words like spirituality and say, yes, we need magic rocks to cure everything. And you're just like, you do you, boo. I'm going to be over here trying to be positive and uplifting and building up the relationships that genuinely help people out.
Yeah. I mean, I think when we look at the background of the word, I think where a lot of the word comes from and why I think it includes the type of things that it does. Oftentimes spirituality includes things like, yes, community and connection. It includes things like meaning and purpose and a sense of meaning and purpose, finding a sense of, what do I value and how do I live a life that reflects my values. It includes oftentimes developing a sense of awe and practices of ritual. The common connection in all of those, I think, does tie back to the concepts behind the word spirit itself. So like back when I was an emerging church minister, I was fascinated with, of course, the biblical languages, ancient Hebrew, ancient Greek. And so like the word for the Hebrew word for spirit, ruach. Okay. So the idea is it comes from words are flexible things, including ancient languages, where they can mean different things in different contexts. What we don't want to do is conflate them together, where it means every possible definition always at all times. But at times it's used to mean literal wind. At times it's used to mean the breath of God or other breath, human breath. And then you see through time an additional way where those become how ruach is used is the invisible animating force. In other words, the wind within us, the breath that moves within us, the Spirit of God, but also our own breath that moves it. So well, it's not a literal breath. It's not a literal wind. What is it? It's spoken of as wind and breath are metaphor for the invisible animating force of life. From a theistic standpoint, well, God is or we have these spirits that are these supernatural things, and we have this supernatural animation within us where we would say, okay, well, we don't have an animated force that is beyond ourselves or supernatural, but we connect it and saying like, okay, but there is something that animates us. And then I think we take it and we apply it, then we use where spirituality then feels like, okay, the secular spirit within us as opposed to a supernatural spirit. So spirituality is developing systems and practices that help us find and generate that animation, that find and generate the animating force of life. And here's where I take all that and I say, that is a fascinating concept in etymology. And yet when 99% of the population hears spirit or spirituality, they think we're talking in supernatural terms. And it also just feels gross to use it. So I get excited talking about animating forces, and yet I just get kind of gross by the terms spirit and spirituality. I don't know. Justice, am I totally off course here? What do you think? Do you like the term spirituality?
No.
Okay.
So it depends. I sometimes will use it and utilize it because I love the concept of, as you said, right? It is embracing the emotive power of the spiritual. It is connecting into the concepts that there is much more than we can see and we can understand. And I think that there is much better words like mystery, tying into the word that we were talking about earlier. And it's loaded. Like, so, in any religious organization, what is done in so many parts, including in our regular lives, is we build towers of words. We build those towers up with words and say we lock us into our traditions and our concepts, and we get solved into these are the way these words mean. And then our towers break. And we shift into trying to figure the way of how do we flow. Everything is now topsy-turvy and fallen apart. And now we have to deal with those words. And those words have power in our culture. Those words have power to us as individuals. And those words have power in so many different ways. And so it is part of that journey. Spiritualism does give me that kind of icky feel because of the way that word has come in. But there are definite times that I utilize that word for myself and in conversations with others, because it's about how we build those connections and we build those things together, knowing that sometimes using that word, even when you mean it one way, gives authority and backing to those who may use that word to cause harm and problems to others. So I don't like the word, and I still use it sometimes.
Okay. Yeah, I don't use it. If nothing else, just because of it can come across as supernatural to folks. And I want to speak clearly. That said, all the different things that are included within the concept of secular spirituality or non-supernatural spirituality in general, when we're talking about community and connection, when we're talking about developing a sense of meaning, purpose, identifying and more fully living out your values, developing a sense of awe, developing a practice of marking time, aka ritual. I love marking time. All of these things that people who are proponents of secular sexuality, all the things that excites them are things that excite me like more than anything. Okay. But I hate the term. Felicia, I don't know. Are we missing anything here? what are any further thoughts?
I think you guys, I think both of you wonderful people are missing the pragmatic use of the word here, in that it's very much something that can be used as a marketable term, as a bridge building term for people who are either questioning or maybe in the middle of deconverting and trying to understand and make that connection towards the other side of, how do I come across that divide? How do I come across that gap? And so being able to utilize that term spirituality in the way they understand it, and then connect it to mystery, connect it to, hey, look at science, look at cosmology, look at all the crazy stuff that's actually out there, and being able to make that connection for them. I think there's a place for that. I think it's there in that bridge building connection.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that.
We need more bridge builders.
Yeah, we do. Absolutely. Hey, just for fun, I'm going to go ahead and just read off real quick what those Facebook answers were, just to put them out into the ether. Okay, if now I can find them. All right, so there were about half of them were words, triggering words. The other half were phrases and sayings, such as "I'm going to pray for you," "Are you saved?" Love the sinner, hate the sin. I think, those are probably, all of them are that, just because they're being used in non-helpful ways. So I'm going to focus in on looks like it's about 10 or 12 individual words that folks shared. Some of these words were shared multiple times. Feel free to jump on my Facebook. It's all public if y'all want to see the thread. I think it's kind of a fun thread. It's a big yellow one if you're looking for it as you're scrolling. But so the words that were shared, spiritual was shared a couple times. Rapture. Oh, Jesus, rapture. Holy shit. Humility. Justice named that earlier. That was kind of a new one for me. I had never thought of it as triggering, but that's one of those words, Justice. Correct me if I'm wrong. That's one of those abusive words where we're wrapped over the head. You need to be humble. You need to practice humility, when it can be like, whoa, holy fuck. Maybe I need to develop a good sense of autonomous ego for once, especially as we're recovering from faith. Maybe leaning into a little bit of ego is a good way to practice independence and things like that. Maybe sometimes humility, being overly humble, is maybe not the best way to move forward for some folks. Other words, conviction. Jesus, there's another one. Beat me over the fucking head. Healing. I thought when I saw that made me stop. I was like, wow, I've never thought of healing as a triggering word, but I can see where it really could be. And either of y'all, feel free to jump in with anything you want to say. Another one was risen. He is risen. I am risen. I don't know. Anything. The bread has risen. I don't know. Sharing. That was another one that kind of took me by surprise. Sharing. And I think the person that shared this was talking about in the context of, again, being beaten over the head. God wants you to share. You're told you need to share everything you have, like a child being told they have to share their favorite toy with a stranger. You got to share, and it can be used almost abusively. The next two also caught me by surprise. Servant and serve. Those were shared by the same person. And again, with this like emotional manipulation of, nope, God told you got to serve. You need to be a good little servant. Got to be a good little steward. Wow.
Well, how about this one, Drew? I think maybe Justice will like this one too. How about canon?
Canon.
Oh, that's good. Mm-hmm. That's really, not that anything you said wouldn't be good, but that's wow. So talk to me a little bit. So I think, and I could be wrong on this, but based on my experience, though I know of canon much from my 10 years in seminary, I think for most evangelicals, maybe even Protestants as a whole, canon is not a word used often in evangelical faith. So for folks who haven't taken 10 years of seminary like myself, take a moment and unpack for those listening who have no idea what you're referencing, tell us what that means a little bit and how that might be a little triggering for you, if you don't mind, Felicia, if you'd like.
Yeah, so the church canon, as a Catholic may know it, is the body of texts, studies, published works, Thomistic metaphysics, for example, maybe histories, artworks, arguments, things that basically shaped or formed the church, the modern church, the Catholic Church as we know it today. And so that's considered the church approved truth or the church approved history. They don't call it church approved, but that's really what it is. There's an old man in a funny hat giving a stamp to pieces of text. This is okay. This is
the
okay.
Nicene Council. I mean, come on.
Oh,
but in truth, you know, when you step outside of Catholicism, you can have many different canons. There are scientific canons, there's canon, atheistic canon. You can have your own personal canon. You can have the Marvel Cinematic Universe canon. There's all sorts of canons out there, and none of it is tied to the Catholic Church. But that word, if you are speaking with a devout Catholic, that is a very, very loaded and powerful word, because it not only includes the Bible and the teachings of Jesus and Moses and all of that, it includes everything else, including everything by St. Peter onward. So you have just you have like the catechism where the church had to bend over backwards to declare Thomistic metaphysics true and accurate and via magic because the Pope said so. But you have all this stuff that gets wrapped into church canon. And so it is a remarkably powerful word that it takes a lot to step away from that when somebody says, oh, well, that's the canon. And you immediately think of somebody deconstructing like, well, wait, what? What are we talking about? Yeah. Why does Pope John Paul II come into this conversation? What's happening? You know, it's tough.
Oh, no, for sure. For sure. Wow. I hadn't thought of that. But that again just shows how it's different sets of words for each of us, right? So for yourself, Felicia, I'd be interested to know just a moment, if you wouldn't mind. So for the word canon, what's your approach then to existing with that word, following it? It can be jolting, it can be triggering. So does that mean you avoid the word, try and ooh, it's ick, I don't use it, I don't like it? Or do you keep it and just kind of try and reframe it in your mind as something that is larger, like you just demonstrated how it's used far and wide outside of Catholicism or Christianity in general? What's your approach? Avoid it, embrace it, face it head on, banish it to hell? What do you do with it? Yeah.
So like at first it was really confusing. It didn't hurt. It wasn't something I avoided. It was just very confusing every time I heard it, because I would speak to some of my friends about, we would play Dungeons and Dragons, and they would say, oh, well, that's the canon. And I was just like, wait, what? And that'd be really, really confusing. And so if somebody was speaking to me about the dragon god Io, and they would say, oh, well, that's the Dungeons and Dragons canon, I'd be like, excuse me? This is blessed by the Pope? What does that mean? But no, so for me, canon was just one of those words that was just really confusing for a very, very long time. It wasn't like, the F slur or anything like that. People weren't intentionally trying to harm me. It made me realize, that's just a word people use, and it's actually a pretty harmless and innocuous word. It just took me a long time to separate the word from the years I had as a Catholic. So it took me just a long time to finally separate myself from that. I still to this day catch myself going, wait, what? And then going, oh wait, no, that's just a word. Just stop. It's fine. But it was more along the lines of, I just had to be exposed to people using it more often. And so that's why I was so lucky to have the internet growing up, because I was able to be exposed to different fandoms who spoke in terms of things like canons. So, you eventually just grew used to it. But yeah, at first it's just very confusing. It's just like, wait, what? What do you mean?
So my
Oh.
daughter caught me with another word that hits me just the same as canon does.
Mm.
And it was just in a joke. She didn't even realize what she was saying because she was looking at flowers and stuff. And she goes, tulip. And if you know what tulip means,
Yes.
tulip is very,
Oh,
very loaded for
shit.
me. And it's loaded in the same
Calvinism.
way that
Protestant
canon is loaded
Calvinism.
for me.
Yeah. Oh, for
Total
sure.
depravity, irresistible grace. No, apologies. Unconditional election, limited atonement, irresistible grace, perseverance of the saints.
Yeah. 100%. Oof.
Mhm.
Oof. Yeah. Yeah. That one would stop me for a moment. Well, maybe I can't say it would stop me because when I'm flower shopping, I guess tulips don't stop me. But when you say it like that, when you point it out, oof. Yeah. Yeah. That's in there. Oh, well, what fantastic conversation. Felicia, thank you so much for calling in. This added so much. And that way, Justice and everyone didn't just have to listen to me drone on as much as I would have without you here helping us out. So appreciate you.
I just enjoy talking and yakking for endless hours at a time. So anytime you need somebody to bore the hell out of you, please let me know.
Sounds good. Sounds good. And hey, anytime you're passing through by chance the Twin Cities of Minneapolis, St. Paul, Minnesota, give us a shout. And the three of us, maybe we'll even grab Lena and pull her along too. We will go get a cup of coffee, a meal, whatever would be enjoyable, and we will have a good ass time. So yeah, conversation for hours on end, I'm sure. So thank you.
Absolutely fantastic. Thank you. Thank you so much. It was great speaking to both of you.
Yeah. Take care, Felicia.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Oh, fantastic, fantastic stuff. What incredible conversation. On my way to making some announcements and whatnot here, I will point out in case there's somebody on that Facebook thread who says, wait a minute, he read every word except mine. The final one was purity. Oof, we could spend a whole show on purity and purity culture, and I'm sure we will spend many shows intersecting with purity and purity culture. But that said, a great big incredible thank you to everyone who helps make this show possible. Justice, of course, a huge thank you for you to being back in the co-host chair once again tonight. Thank you. Thank you. We want to thank, as always, our financial supporters, okay? Which our financial supporters and team members, they're also in the chat. They're also liking and sharing. They're propelling us into the ether sphere, right? Or why is that? I don't know. They're doing all the things, and they're also supporting us financially. Want to give a great big thank you, shout out to our Patreon patrons: Karen Butcher, Logan Fisher, Amanda McLeod, Ryan, Dan D. The Bible says what? Sonny Shell, Phil Calderon, Victor, and Kelly King. And our YouTube members. Tonight we are giving a special shout out thank you to YouTube member Hells Bells 77, Detroit Atheist Queen, Kelly Laughlin 392, Tons of Mice, and Angela Ferguson 1238. Thank you so much for your support. We also, of course, have an amazing crew that is back working behind the scenes, doing so much incredible work. Among them, Apostasy, my wife and part of the co-collaborator of this entire show. Bree Badger in the back, taking calls and all that. We have Call, we have Detroit Atheist Queen, we have Ember, we have Felicia, who just wrapped up the phone call with us here. We have Lisette, we have Michael, and of course, the mastermind behind it all, Wes himself. But folks, we are always looking for additional teammates to help keep the channel going strong, not just this show, but all the others as well. If you would be interested in joining the team, please come help us navigate the chaos, okay? Email us at skeptichaven@gmail.com. That's skeptichaven@gmail.com. And we will have a conversation with you to see how you might best fit into the team. This week, coming up tomorrow, we would love to see everyone here rejoining with the Skeptic Haven family. Tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Central, we have Critical Call with none other than AJ Ruley, and her guest this week is Eli, Prophet of Ire. Prophet of Ire. Make sure you tune in tomorrow night at 7 p.m. and continue to dive in as we build into the future. We also have some powerhouses who are going to be joining long-term. More details coming, but more powerhouses in the secular community are going to be jumping in and helping out with helping lead the charge, lead the community here on Skeptic Haven. We've got Aaron Raw, we've got Professor Dave, we've got others who are joining the team on a long-term, consistent basis. So get ready, y'all. It's about to get even crazier. Okay. Justice.
Yes.
Anything on the radar that you're aware of this week that should be on everyone else's radar? Anything particular you want to highlight this week?
Well, the biggest thing is just a huge shout out and wish to every single one of y'all. Happy Pride! Let's have some fun. Let's
Yes.
bring in the light, the spirit, the vibrancy. Got to slip that word in there. And have some good enjoy together as we go through this next month.
What's the word you slipped in? Spirit?
Of course.
All right. We do want to remind folks, it is our desire to develop a slice of community, just a slice of community here on this show. Very real community, whether it's through the chat, whether it's through calling in. Some folks calling in multiple times. We've had several folks, even just, what is this now? I'm beginning to lose track. The 9th week of our infancy, and we've already had several callers who've called in more than once. This is a good thing, okay? So whether it's through the chat, whether it's by calling in, whether it's by looking for other ways to join the team, to get involved throughout the week, we would love to have you think about, again, 2 things. How might you invest in sharing guidance with other people as they make their way navigating the faith? And how might you invest by seeking out guidance from others? We're all at different stages of this post-faith life, this post-faith journey. And I am convinced that we all have something to be taught and we all have something to teach. If nothing else, just simply saying, hey, in my experience, these are some things I've picked up along the way, right? So I'd invite you to think about next week's conversation. All right, start thinking about it now. Next week, we have the one and only, the master of disaster himself, okay? The hex heretic himself, Seth Andrews. Seth Andrews will be joining us. You may have noticed that a couple months ago, he had to reschedule, and this was the soonest we could get him in. Maybe we should have fired somebody, but we're all important. We didn't fire anybody. This was the soonest we could get Seth Andrews rebooked. And so he is coming back next week, where we'll be talking about, hopefully it's not a triggering word. I know at least one former atheist minister who finds this word very triggering. I kind of like it. The word hope. For me, that's a word that has never felt particularly supernatural or theistic, just feels real. Like, I hope things will get better. Well, next week, our featured conversation is going to be about how, when we were in the faith, for a lot of us, no matter how much bullshit was happening in the world, no matter how many wars, no matter how hard the world was burning, no matter how many injustices there were, we always could just kind of be like, well, God's in control. I've got hope in him. I trust him. And now we leave the faith, and it's like, well, fucking, is there anything do I have any hope for the world? Is it all just burning down? Is there any hope for the future? And so anyway, that's what we're going to dive into with Mr. Andrews next week. We would especially love you to call in about that or anything else you want to chat with us about next week. That said, Justice, I think it's time for a benediction, y'all. Take it away whenever you're ready.
As we come together, may we just realize, may our towers fall, spectacular, and not just inconvenient enough to get our attention. When lightning hits, don't call it a sign that you need to rebuild. Not with the spiritual, but this time correct. Let that rubble sit. Mystery lives there now. Go a little awestruck, a little suspicious of your uncertainty, and very much alive. If something feels sacred tonight, let it be this strange, flickering magic that none of us really know what's going on. And we're here together anyway.
Justice, thank you again. Thank you, everyone. Have a great week, y'all. Stick around for a few final closing notes on the video, and we'll see you right back here next week. Cheers, y'all. Well, that's a wrap here, folks. Hey, do us a favor. Smash like, subscribe, leave a comment. Best ones get tattooed on our favorite guests. And if you're feeling extra lovey tonight, then please, Patreon, memberships, a good old share to the algorithm. All of these are great ways to help our team feel the love and keep the channel moving strong. But hey, one way or another, we'll see you right back here next time, fam, right here on Life After Faith, where we're finding our way together. Well,